Now, this is a very grim story. Spanish police are searching for a British teenager, he's just 19, who's gone missing in Tenerife.
Jay Slater from Lancashire was last heard of on Monday morning. He called a friend to say that he got lost whilst hiking with no water and his phone was a 1% battery. So
we're going to talk now to the former head of Lambeth Missing Persons Unit, Mike Neville. Mike, this is, for any parent, the worst nightmare, isn't it? His mum's already in Tenerife to help in the search. Probably can't do much, but she obviously doesn't want to be sat at home waiting by the phone. But what steps will be being taken? Because it's very hot, he's got no water and no phone, and as you know, parts of that island are very barren, so not much opportunity for shelter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do hope this comes to a successful conclusion and Jay's found alive. But we see almost like the tragedy of Michael Mosley played out here. The actual, when you look at the park, it looks very similar environment. And of course, what we have got though is because he made that phone call, they may well be able to pinpoint an area. We know it's the park area there. So it's different in that way that we've got a tighter area there where they can look. Now, obviously the police will be directing all sorts of search teams. That'll be actual officers on the ground with dogs. Then the use of helicopters and potentially drones to view the parts of that. And of course, they'll have experts, park rangers, who will know the particular tracks and the best places to look. And so I'm sure that the Spanish police are putting a very professional and coordinated search together. And as I say, if there's any chance of getting cell site analysis on his phone to actually pinpoint the location, that's probably their best chance.
I guess does the fact he's a teenager, he's 19, Michael Mosley was 68, 69, nearly 70, but being a young man, will that mean he can survive for longer?
Well, I'm no medical expert, but I think that would be my hope, that he would be able to survive for longer. He looks, when you see the pictures of him, he looks a young, fit lad. So let's just hope that he's able to get out there, that he may have found some source of water. But my prayers go to his mum and the rest of his family, that the Spanish police will find him, and hopefully he's just dehydrated and they'll be able to treat him.
We said he was hiking. He wasn't actually hiking, he was trying to get home. He'd been on a night out and a party on a beautiful island, which is exactly the kind of thing you should be doing at 19 years old, and had missed the last bus home. So it was 8 o'clock in the morning when he rang his friend. He had 1% battery on his phone and he said, I need a drink of water. I'm going to walk home. And the walk back to his apartment was 11 hours if he would have done that on foot. Would the first point of looking, Mike, is inevitably going to be that route, correct? From where he was last seen to where he wanted to end up, and taking people along that route?
Absolutely, but as I understand it, the phone call was made at 8:15. It already set off in the middle of the night, I think. This is the trouble. So I think he set off in the middle of the night to walk that distance, which, as you say, is 11 miles. So, of course, the park rangers will be able to estimate the distance that they'd be able to cover. And absolutely, they'll be looking at what's as the crow fly routes and go on that. And that will be searched by officers and rangers, and then they use the drones and the helicopter to search any other areas. But the good thing here is I think it's away from the sea. The danger is if people go in the sea, then that really is a problem. But it does appear to be on land in that island.
Yeah. Mike, how many people go missing every year in the UK? The numbers are astonishing, aren't they?
The numbers are massive. There's thousands and thousands of people go missing. But when I worked on the Random Missing Persons Unit, of course, the vast majority of those return within a very short amount of time. There's very few people are missing for much more than a day or a couple of days, and then very, very, very few who are missing for more than that. There's handfuls of people who actually vanish and are never found again. So the chances of finding him are very high.
And of course, this isn't a missing person in the type that you would have dealt with, Mike, which sometimes people don't want to be found. In your experience, I imagine those cases must have been very difficult to deal with.
Well, there's a few people who do go vanish and they don't want to be found, but the vast majority of people, it's not like that. Sometimes they're older, they're treating, they're vanished because they're missing and they're put in hospital and the like. There's very few teenagers would vanish like this and vanish without a trace. So, as I say, I'm very hopeful that they'll find him.
So there's the importance as well these days of making sure your phone's charged up, Mike.
Well, I think the lesson learned, when we go to these places, we're British, we're not used to the heat.
No.
And it's the heat in the continent is incredible at the moment. So anybody of any age who's thinking of walking over barren areas or out of the way of civilized places has really got to think again, because I've had a friend just come back from Turkey. The heat is unbearable.
And you know what, as well, I think it is a little bit. We've become so reliant on our phones.
Yeah, we have.
That actually, especially the younger generation, sometimes they lack a bit of common sense because they think, well, if something happens, I can use my phone, not thinking, right, if I haven't got my phone, have I got water?
Right.
Can I find shade? Have I told someone where I'm going to be?
Did he have a hat on even?
All that stuff, that common sense, survival tips and understanding about life that our generation had, because we had to have 10p to find a phone box if anything went wrong.
Well, I was a young soldier, so I can admit to being daft when I was a young man, so I can forgive Jay and anybody else that as a teenager does a silly thing.
Absolutely.
I just hope this silly thing that he's done doesn't result in serious injury. So, let's hope it all turns out well. But having seen the Greek police, I think the Greek police did relatively. They were really dedicated to trying to find Dr. Mosley, and I think the Spanish police, having worked with them, will be just as professional.
Yeah, I'm sure. OK, Mike, good to see you. Mike Neville there. My youngest, I've confiscated her smartphone at the moment. She's all sorts of reasons, but it's gone. So she's going out to school in the morning. She's got a little brick with it's just a Nokia brick.
Ah, yeah, I remember them. Terrific phones.
And but of course, so what's she not doing? She can't rely on it to look at a map. She can't rely on it to pay with anything. And as much as I've had my heart in my mouth thinking, I can't track her, I don't know where she is, it's good for both of us because she has to think, well, if something goes wrong, what do I do?
Yeah, which is what we had to do.
Exactly.
Think for ourselves.
Yeah, and there's a whole generation who don't.
You'd always have money. You'd always have change in your pocket for the phone.
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts.